there are challenges because I get people who don't have receptivity. They don't have their best interests in mind, and sometimes I feel compelled to work with a person who lies to me, and I get halfway in and I find out that basically, we're over our heads because the story is not what was originally presented. So I'm dealing with that. I'm dealing with periodically. The challenge is not so much anymore because I'm dealing with, for the most part, attorneys in my practice group that I know, and if I don't know them, I can find out about it pretty quickly. And I've been fortunate to work with attorneys that have integrity and that do care about their clients. And so even though they might be opposing counsel, we're really both on a higher path. So the challenge is not so much as they used to be. But occasionally things go upside down and you have to deal with it. I've got one barracuda right now that I'm dealing with, and even he seems to be, when you work with somebody for a while, they get to know you and they realize that the way you work isn't the way other attorneys work, and so they usually soften up before the matter is over. I litigated a case with an attorney, 5 years ago, and she is one of these attorneys who feel like her job to, at that time, she felt like it was her job to advocate for whatever the client wanted without respect to the whole family, without looking at how everybody in the family would be impacted by what her client wanted. And the experience for me stank. And I kept trying to recruit her to a larger vision. I kept trying to get her to look at a bigger picture. And all she could do was threaten me with another motion. Well, I'm going to file this, and I'm going to file that, and I'm going to drag your ass through the snow, and it's going to be horrible. And I thought, well, okay. And then we did settle the case, but only because she lost about $55,000 in legal fees, not because of the interests of the client. But her client couldn't pay her anymore. And she was down so much money, she had to settle a case. And about 6 months later, I met her at a bar association dinner, and I got up and gave a presentation on collaborative law at that meeting. And she came up to me, and I talked to her about the importance of using our power as attorneys to influence the process and to recruit the client to a more healing approach. Because as attorneys, we are powerful. We can influence the client. We can encourage them to look at a different way of doing things. And when I sat down, after it was over, she came up to me and she said, "Oh, I get it." Just this weekend, she was teaching on the panel at a collaborative family law group. And so for me, that's one of my biggest victories, is now a lot of the attorneys that I litigated against 5-10 years ago, they've come around. They've come around. They now are, I was especially struck by a phrase she used. She says, "Let's think of lawyers as healers." And I thought, wow. So, I guess that's my biggest victory. I don't really have victories in my practice with my cases. My clients have victories. They're not mine. They're not mine. I have satisfaction. But to me, that was a victory. I just thought, wow, that was really cool. And I said, so last weekend when I saw her, I said, "So now you're a believer?" She says, "Yeah, I'm a believer." She got it. One of the first things Gary Bellows said to us in law school so many billion years ago is he said, "Lawyers have power, and you need to know how you're going to use that power." freedom and power, so how are you going to use it? And I'm so grateful I got that message from day one. You don't have to do anything. And if it doesn't match what's inside you, you don't have to do it.